I can't stand Stevenson. Like, damn, man. Yo, this where it's so backwards, man. So backwards. They hate black people. I'll go 12 rounds with a fighter. Oh, he's so boring. Lomachenko go 12 rounds with somebody. Oh, he's the Matrix. The Matrix. I never seen nothing like him.
Breaking news, Bam Bam Rodriguez wins ESPN 2022 Best Men's Fighter MidYear Award over Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, Jermell Charlo, Errol, Spence, and Bivol. Now, there's no doubt about it. Bam Bam Rodriguez is a really good fighter, but every fighter I just named is even a better fighter and had a better performance against a better opponent this year. However, some way, somehow, Bam Bam Rodriguez ended up winning the Best Man's Fighter award. Keep in mind, Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, and Jermell Charlo, they all beat undefeated fighters in their primes, while Bam Bam Rodriguez, on the other hand, he fought a fighter that was 35 years old and already had 5 losses. Even the fight before that, when he fought for a vacant world title. Would you guys believe he fought for a vacant world title against the fighter that was coming off a loss to Estrada? Now wait a minute. How the heck did Bam Bam Rodriguez manage to fight for a vacant title against a fighter that was coming off a loss? How is that even possible? Better yet, how did he manage to win ESPN Best Man's Fighter MidYear Award? This is further proof how racially biased boxing is. You have Devin Haney and Jermell Charlo. They both fought undefeated fighters in their primes for undisputed, where they won in a dominant fashion. You have Jermell Charlo, who knocked out Castano in a classic fight. You also have Devin Haney, who dominated Kambosos in every single minute of every single round. On foreign soil, Devin Haney went overseas and got the job done. So again, while you have Devin Haney and Jermell Charlo achieve the biggest award in boxing, undisputed, against undefeated fighters in their primes, some way, somehow, Rodriguez, who fought for a vacant title against a fighter coming off a loss, then fought another fighter who had 5 losses out of his prime and looked less spectacular than Jermell Charlo, Devin Haney, Shakur, Bivol, and Errol Spence, who actually beat Bam Bam in every single category still. Bam Bam Rodriguez ended up winning ESPN Best Man's Fighter MidYear Award in 2022. Now, to make one thing clear, this is not Bam Bam Rodriguez's fault, since he's only enjoying the fruit of having the complexion for the connection. This is more so shining a bright light on the clear double standards in the sport of boxing. Furthermore, Devin Haney, Jermell Charlo, and even Errol Spence, they could definitely object this racially biased award. However, not Shakur Stevenson, since he's actually the one that co-signed Bam Bam and put him on the map. Remember, he the one that said, Bam Bam Rodriguez is so special. I'm sorry. He's so special and been special. He's one of my favorite fighters. Now, I don't know why Shakur was saying I'm sorry, when that's exactly what old media wanted to hear. You only have to apologize when you praise a fighter on the coincidental list, not the contrary. It's as clear as day. You will receive all of the love in the world when you praise a fighter on the hope list, when you give the public and old media hope. The only time you have to apologize is when you speak the truth and you praise a fighter on the coincidental list, when you say Crawford is pound for pound number 1 over Canelo Alvarez before Canelo lost to Bivol. Anybody that said Crawford was pound for pound number 1 received a lot of hate. On the other hand, every fighter that failed for the old media deception and were afraid of Canelo fans where they actually said that Canelo was pound for pound number 1, they received a lot of love. If you may wonder why, it's because the world is backward, like Shakur Stevenson said at some point. That's why us new media, me and Dante, we stand by the truth. The whole absolute truth. We always stand by that principle. I'd rather be hated for telling the truth than be loved for telling a lie, which is why I always report the whole absolute truth and put it together like puzzle every single time. Nevertheless, there was no reason for Shakur to say I'm sorry when he was praising Bam Bam Rodriguez. The only people that should have said I'm sorry is old media. They the only ones that should be telling Shakur Stevenson, we sorry. You're right, Shakur. Bam Bam Rodriguez is so special, and he been special, that we believe he's even more special than you. That's why he's ESPN Best Man's Fighter MidYear Award in 2022 over Shakur Stevenson. And every fighter in boxing, now every other boxer from Errol, Spence, Devin Haney, Jermell, Charlo, they all can have a rebuttal, except of Shakur Stevenson, since he's the one that put Bam Bam Rodriguez on the map. Therefore, Shakur can't have a rebuttal because old media is actually agreeing with him. They on the same page. They respect skills too, especially when it's coming from a fighter on the hope list. Remember Lomachenko against Teofimo Lopez? Remember Tyson Fury against Klitschko? You never hear old media talk about how boring those fights were or how boring those fighters are, like Lomachenko and Tyson Fury. Instead, they talk about their skills. But when it comes to Shakur Stevenson, they don't talk about his skills. They don't talk about his skill set that's more impressive than both Lomachenko and Tyson Fury combined. Instead, they talk about how boring Shakur Stevenson is and label him a boring fighter. You have Uncle Bradley, for example. He actually said he went to sleep during Shakur Stevenson fight. Meanwhile, he went out of his way to defend Edgar Berlanga when he really lost and robbed his opponent Angulo, where Edgar Berlanga threw no punches in a very non-entertaining fight. I never heard Uncle Bradley say I went to sleep during the Edgar Berlanga fight and label him boring. Absolutely not. In fact, he defended Edgar Berlanga. He went out of his way to defend Edgar Berlanga by claiming the only thing that matters is winning. Forget about being a knockout puncher and having your reputation as a monster. The only thing that matters is winning. But that wasn't the case for the boxer, Shakur Stevenson. Keep in mind, Edgar Berlanga fought a journeyman in a showcase fight, while Shakur fought a dangerous knockout puncher that was undefeated. However, peep game, Uncle Bradley doesn't criticize a fighter on the hope list. See, he knows it's okay to bash and criticize a fighter on the coincidental list like Shakur. He also knows it's forbidden to criticize a fighter on the hope list like Lomachenko, Tyson Fury, or even Edgar Berlanga. But hey, if that's what you believe, then keep the same energy. But Uncle Bradley is no fool. He knows how to stay on code. More importantly, Shakur Stevenson told Timothy Bradley, Uncle Bradley, my apologies. Shakur told Uncle Bradley, thank you for calling me boring and saying you went to sleep. But turns around and disses Dante's Boxing Nation, who's been calling out all of the double standards Shakur have been going through his entire career. In fact, me and Dante have been calling out Timothy Bradley, Tessitore, and Mark Kriegel for that boring comment, exposing the double standards with nothing but facts. In return, all Dante got was a diss while he was trying to explain to Shakur, you only dig in your own grave because the same fighter you praising will end up replacing you on the pound for pound list, and old media gonna use your own words against you. And I totally agree. At this pace, Rodriguez will surpass Shakur on the pound for pound list, just like Canelo, Lomachenko, surpassed Crawford on the pound-for-pound list. Even with the low opposition Rodriguez beat so far, he already managed to win the Best Men's Fighter MidYear award. And Mike Coppinger already wrote an article talking about Rodriguez is closing in on the pound-for-pound list. And you know who's last, who's number 10 on the pound-for-pound list? They have Shakur Stevenson. Therefore, real soon, Bam Bam Rodriguez, just like Dante predicted, will kick Shakur Stevenson out of the pound-for-pound list, out of the top 10 pound-for-pound list, and surpass him on ESPN top 10 pound-for-pound list. Keep in mind, Shakur is actually the ESPN fighter. Devin Haney is also an ESPN fighter. However, the DAZN fighter Bam Bam is the one that ended up winning 2022 ESPN Best Men's Fighter MidYear award. So again, while Dante was trying to show Shakur the bigger picture, Shakur completely overlooked the message. Because if you pay attention to the message, Dante was actually still putting Shakur Stevenson on. All he was trying to do is put him on game by getting him ready for what's coming his way. Because everything we report, it doesn't affect us. Absolutely not. All of the double standards we fight for, it affects these fighters directly, like the Shakur Stevensons of the world. Like I said before, Dante and I actually made plenty of videos trying to get Shakur the Oscar Valdez fight. Back when ESPN was protecting Oscar Valdez until Crawford sued Bob Arum in Top Rank for racial double standards, for favoring white and Latino fighters. Dante and I called out Tessitore, Mark Kriegel, and Uncle Bradley for the double standards that didn't affect us, not even a bit. Absolutely not. We get paid regardless. We're not the ones fighting. We're the ones that's actually reporting the news. We could report whatever we want, but we chose to report on the double standards Shakur Stevenson is dealing with that actually affects him directly. Him, not us. And all Dante got in return is a diss. Meanwhile, he told Uncle Bradley, "Thank you for calling him boring. You really can't make this up." Then Shakur is gonna wonder, or he may be wondering now, why all of these reporters continue calling him or talking about his so-called boring performance. Till this day, they still ask him about that till this day. And Shakur only has himself to blame there, because instead of pointing out the direct double standards by asking, have you ever called Lomachenko boring when he threw no punches against Teofimo Lopez? Have you ever called or labeled Tyson Fury boring for the Klitschko fight? If not, then why are you asking me that? It's as clear as day. You a biased reporter. Man, if Shakur ever checked anybody like that, it would have been the end of that discussion. But instead, he told Uncle Bradley, "Thank you for labeling me boring and hurting my reputation. You really can't make this up." And again, the man who actually defended Shakur Stevenson the most, Dante, only gets a diss in return. Which is why I totally agree with Shakur when he said, this world is really backward. Do you guys notice how everyone that celebrated Shakur dissing Dante are the racially biased fans, because these same fans never celebrated Shakur when he actually won a fight. And they will never celebrate Shakur unless he eliminates another fighter on the coincidental list. That's the only time you can expect them to come to the forefront and congratulate Shakur Stevenson. That's why these fighters have to realize being a fighter today is not enough. You have to be a fighter in and out of the ring. Out of the ring, you have to fight against all of the racial double standards that you're gonna go through. Not me, nor Dante. Us new media, we trying to help these fighters on the coincidental list that's dealing with all of these double standards. But if you're not willing to help yourself and stand up for yourself, then I'm afraid there is nothing we could do. That's why these fighters have to wake up. I hear Shakur always say, they're gonna love me once I prove myself. All I gotta do is prove myself. Once they see how special I am, after I beat Oscar Valdez the way I'ma beat him, they gonna love me. No. You highly mistaken. They already know how good you are. Shakur is quickly gonna learn. The more you win, the more you're gonna get hated. Just like Floyd Mayweather. Why you think Floyd Mayweather is so hated is because he has the complexion for the neglection. The darker the complexion, the weaker the connection. Matter of fact, there is no connection. Floyd Mayweather beat the public and old media favorite fighters every single time. That's why. It's not because he talks shit, because first of all, Floyd don't even talk shit. He speak facts. When he's bragging, he's not bragging. He telling the truth about his credentials. However, they love Conor McGregor and they love Tyson Fury when they talk shit. But when Floyd Mayweather talks shit, they hate Floyd. And ironically, the same reason that the public and old media claim that they hate Floyd is the same reason the public and old media love the heck out of Conor McGregor and Tyson Fury, who talk the most shit, because they have the complexion for the connection to get the ultimate protection. That's why. Which is why Shakur need to be himself. If you want to talk your shit, talk your shit. You're not going to become a superstar if you're going to mute yourself and not show your true personality. More importantly, if you don't speak the truth, then you're not going to stand out. You're just going to be another person that's telling a lie. The quickest way to becoming a superstar is to follow the Muhammad Ali blueprint. Call out the double standards. And you don't have to be disrespectful. Absolutely not. You could do it while being respectful and politically correct. If old media is comfortable being racially biased and lying to the public, then all of the fighters should be comfortable exposing the double standards by actually telling the truth. The truth is a very powerful weapon that Muhammad Ali used. That's why the truth is one of Allah's holy names. Do you guys know Muhammad Ali was the most hated man in the world? That's right. Muhammad Ali, the most beloved. He was the most hated man in the world when he was fighting in his prime. And when I say fighting, I'm saying in and out of the ring. Out of the ring for his people. When he was fighting for his people when they couldn't eat in the same restaurant as other human beings. That man was the most hated man in the world. But today, he's the most loved when he's dead. May Allah rest his soul. But let me guess, to all of these internet racist trolls, was Muhammad Ali race baiting when he was telling the truth and fighting for his own people, for wanting to get the same rights as other people, to eat in the same restaurants like every other human being, so on and so forth? Is that race baiting? That's a rhetorical question to all of the racists out there. Nevertheless, Shakur Stevenson used his platform, his voice, to basically discredit and disrespect Muhammad Ali, the greatest, when he said Tyson Fury will beat him. Why? Because he said he's too big. However, he picked Holyfield to give him a tough fight, a cruiserweight, a fighter that's actually smaller than Muhammad Ali. Then he said Jared Anderson, nobody beats him, he will beat everybody. But when he was asked a direct question, who would win between Tyson Fury and Jared Anderson, Shakur said he can't answer that question because they're not going to fight. Since Jared Anderson is a top contender that's 23, 24 years old, while Tyson Fury is 32 years old, and he only has 1 or 2 more fights. Now wait a minute. Shakur said he can't answer the question of a realistic fight between Jared Anderson and Tyson Fury, 2 fighters that actually already sparred before, Two fighters that's still active and in their primes. If Tyson Fury really want to, he can actually make the fight happen. Remember, Muhammad Ali knocked out the Mike Tyson of his Tom Sonny Liston when he was only 22 years old. So the fight is very realistic between Jared Anderson and Tyson Fury. I mean, one thing for sure and two things for certain is way more realistic than Muhammad Ali versus Tyson Fury, because Muhammad Ali is dead. But according to Shakur, he can pick a winner in a fantasy fight between Muhammad Ali and Tyson Fury, but he can't pick a winner in a realistic fight between Jared Anderson and Tyson Fury. That's not adding up. However, that's another video for another day. So be on the lookout for the cookout. For now, we'll see who wins the ESPY 2022 Best Boxer. And to make one thing clear, that's totally a different award, which makes no sense whatsoever, because why wasn't Bam Bam Rodriguez on the list, who just won ESPN 2022 Best Men's Fighter Award? Hello? Shouldn't they replace Shakur with Bam Bam Rodriguez? Because he just won ESPN Best Men's Fighter MidYear Award. It really sounds like ESPN is making up shit as they go. Excuse my French. With the facts being laid out, drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe below and click on the notification bell to be continued on the next episode of Akhi, TV. Peace. And I'm on to the next one.